Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. Every couple of months, we invite Radnor Township 6th Ward Commissioner Jake Abel to visit here at MLTV 21 to share information and commentary about how our local tax dollars are being spent and the issues that affect the well-being of Radnor residents. Welcome, Jake.
Always good to be back.
I'll try to be good. I won't put a lot of pressure on you with the questions. How long have you been representing the 4,500 or so residents of the 6th Ward?
It's a good question. I sometimes lose track of time, but I think I first served 2018.
So 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
And how much more do you have on your term?
So I'll have. So we just finished up an election, so 2 years remaining on this term.
2 more years of torture.
No comment.
No, as I said before, you and all the other members of the board deserve our thanks for the time you put in, the effort you put in on our behalf.
I will say, over the 6 years, the last year or so, and starting out in this term, I feel like the issues are becoming less partisan, which has been a good change. So the conversations are more about more on quality of life issues and how each neighborhood and each ward feels about an issue versus Republican Democrat issues.
Well, that's good news. Is there any particular reason for that change? I mean, you are the only Republican member of the board. So
I don't have a. I've tried to think about this too, and I don't have a reason why that change has occurred, but it's welcome.
I think it could only be because all of you have mutual trust and respect for one another, and you may disagree on issues, but I'd like to think you have the best interest of the township, all of you, and that supersedes anything else. I'd like to think that, and I hope that is the case.
Yeah, and I enjoy my colleagues that are up there, and we have good conversations, good debates. I don't always win on how I feel that issues should be resolved, but at least I'm allowed to get my position out there and my views known.
Great. 6 years or thereabouts, and you have. Even though you represent the 6th Ward, you have a broader perspective on the issues in the township. From your perspective, has the township been adapting sufficiently to the many, many changes that have been occurring around us and within the township as well?
Yeah, I think, I always say government is slow for change. We all know that we've been dealt some unusual cards the last couple of years with COVID. But yeah, I think we have the right people in the administration. We have a board that is active and that is out in public and understanding what their neighbors are needing and wanting and asking for. And we're bringing those issues before the board to vote on and hopefully adapt and adopt into our everyday life.
We don't have too many new development issues in the township, do we? There isn't that much open land for development, or is there?
No. So I think you're correct. There's not much open land, but I feel like the areas that are open are under consideration for being developed at the moment. So we've got just in the last 6 weeks, we've heard conditional use. We've had conditional use hearings on the AT&T parking lot, which has been. There's a proposal for.
Where's that?
So that would be Lancaster, and.
It's in Wayne.
In Wayne.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, not too far from here, right across the street.
Yeah.
So it's that public parking area.
Right.
That you can't access from Lancaster. You actually have to go up, which is now the men's suit store.
And what's being proposed there?
So it would be multi-use. So there'd be businesses on the first floor, and then living area above. So we've had that issue discussed, and then recently we've been discussing the area off of Eagle Road up there by the Stratford train station, which is the old Campbell Soup heiress property.
Dorrance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be 41 townhomes.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
41 townhomes.
So you got 41 townhomes, and then across the street, which would be, I think it's called Saint Honoré, that's another 14 homes, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then across the street, over by the park, there's another development that's under construction.
Congestion with a capital C, parking, traffic, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Is it difficult to get the zoning for those kinds of developments, or are they already sufficiently zoned so that?
Sufficiently zoned, I think. So the one that we're considering now, the Campbell Soup heiress's property off of Eagle Road, that came before the board. I mean, that's been under consideration for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, really?
Maybe 5. We've denied one of the proposals, so they're back before the board with another proposal. Mm-hmm. So the board takes this serious. We want to make sure. I mean, I think we've supported development in the past, but we want to make sure it's the right development.
Yes. Yep.
And more importantly, that the neighbors get an opportunity to be heard.
Is Radnor, in your opinion, or has it been business friendly? I'm thinking specifically about the business center in Wayne.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
where parking continues to be the issue.
Well, I don't know if parking is the issue. We have sufficient parking. I mean, you can go back by the Wayne train station.
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of the parking on Lancaster Avenue, just because I think that it's actually more of a deterrent. Me personally, like I refuse to park there because it's impossible to back out, especially at 5 p.m. In the evening. So I mean, if there's anything parking related, I would think that is the issue. But I think we have sufficient parking, especially now that we've opened up the new parking area behind the library.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But yeah, I think the Wayne Business Association partnering with Radnor Township, I think we're always looking at the business district, making sure that we are we're being competitive with King of Prussia. You go down to Ardmore and some of the newer business districts that are popping up. I think I think the one issue that I've always heard is rental prices, and the township doesn't control those. So it's got to be. I mean, that's a decision that businesses have to make, and then we also have to, again, coming back to COVID, we have to look at what is the business environment after COVID. Where more people are shopping online. So what's the right fit for that township look, and that's something that will be looked at as we do the comprehensive plan, which is underway.
I don't remember there ever. I'm sure there have been, but I don't remember there ever being an empty storefront on Wayne Avenue.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have many now, I'm on the positive side, I've seen that some of those are being populated with new types of businesses.
I hadn't noticed that. And you have no control over. Well, you have some control over that in terms of licensing and so on. Yeah,
but again, I think this comprehensive plan is going to have a real impact. Unfortunately, it's going to take some time to complete. But when it is complete and comes before the board, we can have a look at what their suggestions are for the types of businesses, and at that point make necessary changes.
I don't know. It seems to me the impression I've had and others have had is that Wayne Avenue is for restaurants, some upscale, and otherwise it's boutique shops from the jeweler all the way up. Is that changing now?
Yeah, well, the jeweler obviously is changing. The jeweler is gone.
Wayne Jeweler?
Yeah, on the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I missed that.
So that's within the last 6 weeks.
Oh my, that's vacant? The whole property?
I don't know if he is out of the shop now, but yeah, he was on his way out.
My God, that's been there a long, long time.
Yeah.
In fact, he bought the business, didn't he, from the original founder?
That was way before I moved here.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. My God, that's been a mainstay.
So you'll start to see some changes in that center district.
There's no way to stop it. All you can try to do is manage it.
And be prepared.
Yeah, yep. Has the budget been approved?
So
we're still working on it.
No, we approved the budget at the end of November.
The final approval was in November?
Final approval in November.
With the increase in village taxes?
Yeah, I mean, it was a slight increase, but there was an increase.
Yeah.
Despite my efforts to use the $12 million we have in surplus, we are going back to the residents and asking for more money.
Mm-hmm. For what? Principally. Well, I know there was a big expenditure for police.
Yeah, and I think that took us over the top for the year. That $1 million. So without that $1 million expenditure, I think we probably could have squeezed it in. But we had to go out and raise funds.
As I recall, your issue, correct me on this if I'm wrong, your issue was not so much with the expenditure, but it was off budget.
Right. So a big expenditure like that, for me personally, should be done during the budget season. I mean, that's manpower. Those are resources, and those aren't one-time issues. So we've got to account for that every year.
Right.
And we looked at the manpower issue in November of 22. So if we're having those discussions in November, and the board said, no, we're not prepared to take on that, those expenditures now, why are we coming back in June and July and approving it? That should wait till November and should be looked at with the rest of the budget, because it's not done in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm. Was the addition of a social worker, I think that's the correct phrase, of a social worker to the police force, which of course has been discussed at the national level for a long time. Are we a leader in that, or are other surrounding communities doing the same thing? Do you know? I mean,
I think the county has a social worker.
Yeah.
I don't know about other municipalities in the area, so I think we'd probably be one of the first to do that.
I read it, and conceptually it sounds great. I just couldn't understand how one social worker could be available everywhere all the time when he or she is most needed.
Right. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. This year and following years. I'd like to see the data.
Are officers trained to deal with some emotional issues and aberrant behavior?
I think they are, but not to the extent that a social worker has training.
Yeah. I guess in an instance of suicide threat or something like that, where a trained specialist could talk to the person, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I hope we don't have too many incidents like that, but I guess it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing I was eager to ask you about, the flood of illegal, unauthorized immigrants into this country. It's affecting Philadelphia. It's affecting other surrounding communities. Is it yet affecting Radnor?
No, I mean I haven't had any issues or heard of an issue.
But is Radnor prepared in the event that a group of immigrants decides to set up housekeeping in one of our parks?
I mean, again, that issue. It's not an issue that I've discussed. I haven't had a conversation with.
Shouldn't there be some discussion of it, because it could happen?
I guess it could happen. I think our police department and our administration would be prepared. I don't know what the protocols would be. But again, it's one of those issues I'm sensitive to. I mean, I've dealt with this issue I first dealt with this issue 22 years ago when I worked for the Speaker's office, and I would meet frequently with these groups, and it would be it was mainly for the DREAM Act, and that was for the children of illegal immigrants who came across, and a child really doesn't have a decision. It isn't making a decision. They're coming with their parents. So I'm sensitive to that issue, and would hope that we would obviously we'd be respectful, but we would make decisions that would be for the right be positive for the families and make sure that they are getting the support that they need.
I understand that. And yes, you would hope that we would treat them humanely and so on. On the other hand, because it's becoming such a pervasive issue in suburban communities all over the country, I would hope that Radnor Township would have given it some forethought and therefore have a policy, a plan in the event that it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's
other than simply the police will take care of it.
Yeah, probably it's probably and maybe we're having that. Maybe the administration's having that conversation, and I'm just not aware of it. Mm-hmm. But if the question is, do we have the resources necessary to care? I mean, just think about it. Housing. I don't know that we have. If you're looking at 20, 30 people, I don't know that we have housing in the township.
Right.
I mean, we don't have food banks
right.
that would be able to serve that number of people. So we'd be looking to larger
mm-hmm.
Communities,
mm-hmm.
Primarily Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to play it out too far, but I guess at some point the county would have to step in.
Yeah.
To provide some relief.
I would think so.
Yeah, and maybe they're the ones who have an emergency plan of some kind. Speaking of parks. Is there a township ordinance that requires people to leash their dogs?
Good.
In public area.
It's a good question, and it's actually a timely discussion. We'll at the February 12th meeting, we will look at dogs in Skunk Hollow and do they need to be on leash. And I don't frequent Skunk Hollow. I go there. I go there at times, mm-hmm. but I'm not in the back on the trails mm-hmm. where it's a popular place for dog owners to walk their dogs. And I guess some dog owners choose to have their dogs off leash. I think the question is, what does it mean to have your dogs on leash? So I don't know that a physical leash is... So dog owners will argue that a physical leash is not required. You just need to have your dogs under control and by you. So some dogs are, I guess some dogs are 10, mm-hmm. 15 yards ahead of their owner, mm-hmm. But they're behaved. So that's the conversation we will be having. Do they need to be on a physical leash?
An official leash. A leash is a leash.
And some dog owners will say that you don't need to have your dogs on a physical leash. You just need to have them
because I can
under control.
Control their behavior.
Correct.
On the other hand, if dog owners go to Skunk Hollow or other open areas so their dogs can run.
Well, we have 2 designated dog parks to allow mm-hmm. your dogs to run, and that's the Hartford Dog Park and then the Friends of Radnor Trail, mm-hmm. which is in Ward 6.
Right.
So those are 2 designated dog parks. So I don't know how much of that is being done at Skunk Hollow where it's dogs just
right.
go run and get exercise. But I've asked for the data, and hopefully I'll receive it this week so I can look at it. Mm-hmm. Is this a true problem, or is this a solution looking for a problem?
How did the issue come before the board?
So it's a conversation that's been discussed in Parks and Rec for probably 2 years now. And again, I followed some of the discussion. I still haven't really heard of a problem. I've mm-hmm. just heard of residents say that they would prefer dogs to be on leash. Mm-hmm. Mm. But play that out. We also have signs in most of our parks that say no dogs in the park. No dogs are allowed in the park. And I've got 4 children. I frequent many of the parks to watch sports and other activities. Yes. And without fail, I'll see a half dozen dogs with their owners. Yes. Watching their children play, mm-hmm. and that's not enforced.
Without a leash, you say?
No, they're on leash.
Oh, they're with a leash. Okay.
But that's not enforced. So.
Oh, the point is no dogs at all.
Yeah.
Leashed or not.
So
yeah.
I mean, the question's always going to be enforcement. Is that really? Do we want our police officers coming out to Skunk Hollow 1 to 4 times a day to look at a dog that's off leash, which when they get out there, when they finally arrive, get out of their vehicle, come into the park.
Dog's on a leash.
The dog's either on a leash or they've vacated the area. Yeah. So there's no citation that can even be given.
Yeah, yeah. No. We'll see.
So I'm expecting a lively debate on February 12th.
It bothers me. It's nice to have dogs, I guess. I don't have one. But it bothers me if I'm out in an open area and a dog runs up to me and jumping all over me and sniffing me. That's not fair. Now they're violating my rights.
So you correct. And I have 2 dogs, and I would counter with, I know my dogs, and I would, as a dog owner, I would not let them run up and jump on you. But my dogs are always on leash, so I don't have that. Well, I shouldn't say they're not going to run. They're not going to run and jump on you. If you came close and came in their area, they may jump up on you, but they're friendly. So, and I know their tendencies, so I would have to hold them back.
I don't care if they're friendly. I don't want them jumping all over. Speaking of parks, are they putting a gas line or something into the Willows? It's been torn up for such a long time.
Right.
As recently as yesterday. The street, that is, Darby Road.
Yeah, I don't know what. So I don't know. I don't know.
Digging there.
I don't know the project that is ongoing there, but we have approved some work.
I think they have to tie into the line though on Darby Road.
Okay.
I think
that may be the project. I'm not fully aware, but we have approved work at the Willows. Some of the underground facilities.
Again, this is all infrastructure.
Yep.
Yeah.
It falls under the 1.8 million.
Radnor is paying for.
We would be paying for that.
Out of the 1 point or 2 point, whatever it was.
Well, it's 1.8, maybe 1.9, which is now down to, I would think, closer to 800.
All on infrastructure.
Infrastructure, I would. We've got the water system inside, the fire alarm.
So what's the township going to do when the leaves are out and the birds are chirping and music is blasting from the Willows mansion because of events?
Another timely conversation. And it's great that the Willows Park Preserve is being able to book these events because at this point, that's the way they're sustaining and being able to keep the lights on. So, that's a positive. The negative, especially for the neighbors across the street,
well, not just across the street, but adjoining. All those neighbors adjoining the property, the park.
Yeah, I think so. I think
as you come into the one entrance, there are houses to the right on the other side of the fence.
Correct. I don't know that it's affecting those neighbors as much as it is the neighbors across the street in Inverary.
I don't understand. Maybe they're in closer proximity to it than.
Well, maybe they don't. They're not vocal. Yeah, they're not as vocal. But there are conversations right now. Well, first of all, the conversations are at the board level. We're looking. I've asked the township to look at the lease to see if we can use some of the 1.8 million for a new sound system, something more. That we'd be able to have more control over.
How would a new sound system obviate the noise that permeates?
So you'd have the new sound system, and then can we when it's installed, can we turn it so the noise goes in a different direction, not facing the neighborhood. So that's one thing that we're looking at the township level. Another thing that we're looking at is the lease. We've got leases from other entities which restrict the numbers of pieces of band if it's a live band. So hopefully we can be able to copy some of that language and then just update our lease. And I think that would have some control over some of those events where they use live bands. And then the WPP, they've had a seat at the table. They seem to want to address the issue. And then we've got a meeting coming up with the Inverary HOA and the township to continue this discussion. And my hope is we can get this resolved as soon as possible, particularly in time for the spring and summer event season.
Right. Yeah.
I'm hopeful that with everybody involved, and everybody seems to have us. We all seem to be in agreement what the resolution is, and it's just how do we get there and how quickly can we get there. I
hear what you're saying. I just don't understand how you can contain control the decibels when there is music outside on the terrace or patio, whatever it's called, in or out of a tent. It's still going to be loud, whether it's a band or a DJ.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's going to be noise, but you can control the decibel level.
You can.
You can turn the speakers.
I don't think they are, but you can.
Well, I mean, that's something that we're looking at. So with that new sound system, who has control of that sound system? We need to get that. That's one of the questions we need to get addressed and figured out. And then when you talk about a tent, right now the tent is open. So can we get a flap? Can you put that wall down? And that, just putting that wall down will block some noise.
Okay.
So there's just, we're going to take a lot of bites at the apple here and figure out what's best.
Yeah. Well, you know how I feel about the Willows and the Willows Park. I still think there was a better approach to preserving some parts of the Willows.
Yeah.
I commend the people who are trying. I think it's futile over the long run.
Well, yeah.
And I don't want to be around when that property and all of its problems reverts to the township again.
Yeah, and that's
having spent $1.8 million and more.
Well, my concern is, you go through that $1.8 million, and we're probably around $800,000. If they continue to need assistance, will they be one of those 501c3s that come in every budget season, and ask for additional support?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my concern, because that's what I've been talking about the whole time. It's not just 1.8. This is going to be something that the township has to take over at some point if they can't raise the money.
This year, are there any big issues that the board is going to have to deal with?
Yeah.
We already talked about development. That's a big issue. Budget, there's not much you can do about the budget. It is what it is. I assume that there's enough in there to take care of most contingencies, I hope.
Right.
Anything on the offing, though?
I think some of the issues that we've been talking about for my 6 years, we still have stormwater issues. So we're still going to have projects that we have to fund.
But I thought that money was put aside.
It is. Oh. I don't know that we've taken out a bond to pay for some of those.
Right.
But that list is long. So I think.
Okay.
I don't know that we've we felt the whole brunt of that cost. We've got a sewer system that we're going to have a conversation about, and
yes.
I know we've got some volunteer committees that are looking at that issue, and I would expect we'll have some suggestions before the board before the end of the year. Those are the two big issues that I think, just in terms of money and impact to the community.
Trees. Trees have been an issue on and off over the past year or so. Where are we on trees? Taking the dead trees out, and then I hope replacing them. Well,
we still have. We're still a community that has many old large trees.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that we're going to continue to have. I don't know. My position is the township shouldn't be in the business of planting trees anymore.
You don't think so?
Well, not if we're responsible for those in the right of way. So in the past, my understanding is the township planted a bunch of trees in the right of way.
Right.
As new homeowners come in, they may not want those. And so the argument has been, I didn't plant that there. The township planted it there. It's not, it's in some form of decline. I want the township to remove those. These are just expenses that I don't think should be put back on the township. So if the township is putting those trees in, and we do an annual planting.
Yeah, but it's also part of beautification, and is what makes Radnor Township what it is.
Don't put it in the right of way. Put it on the property.
Okay, got it.
So it's not the township's responsibility.
I know one of your favorite topics, and you just alluded to it. Nonprofits who come into the board asking for subsidies.
Right.
And you still have an issue with that.
I do. I seem to have lost on that issue. I worked. It was a bipartisan effort. Worked with colleagues on the board,
Right.
and we put a proposal before the before the board, and it was and that would be a way to limit the annual expenditures, and also be able to get fresh 501c3s in to fund, and that lost.
I know you'll keep fighting a fight. Thank you, Jake. Always good to be with you.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time, this is Rick Anthony. I am Rick Anthony, and this is 30 Minutes. Take very good care of yourselves.